And good morning, buenos dias, bienvenidos, happy Sunday. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you? Happy
I'm
Sunday.
doing pretty good. I'm doing good. The weather's changing. It's fall here in northern Arizona, so the weather's all nice and cool and chilly at night and in the morning. And I'm a happy guy. And it's official start of spooky month, spooky season.
Spooky season, my favorite.
Yeah. So we're running a few minutes behind this morning because Liz didn't plug in her mic. But we're good now.
Yeah, leave me. Okay. Yeah, everything's okay.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all good. Was it a late night for you?
It was
It
very late
was.
night.
Were you at a show last night or was that Friday night?
No, that was Friday, Thursday and Friday, or just Friday. I don't even fucking remember anymore. I got to so many shows this month. It's been crazy. I have so
I
many
don't
shows,
even
and
know
I
how
think
you keep it all. Like, how do you keep track of all the wrestling shows that you go to in LA?
I have a planner.
You have a planner? You should have like a personal assistant for all the wrestling that you go to.
Right? No, but I have a planner, so that keeps me organized as much as it can. And then I do have a whiteboard that I look at every single day. So when I don't have time to just go through my planner and see what's going on and stuff, I write it on my whiteboard so it's there. Like this month, I wrote down everything that I had for this month, so that way I wouldn't forget if I forgot to look at my planner. So that's how I keep up with it. I had to because there was a point where I almost missed a show because I wasn't sure if I wasn't sure about the date. So I was like, I need to start writing this shit down. And especially this month. This month alone, I've been to so many shows. I mean, Friday I went to Vegas and I came back yesterday. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I don't know how you keep up with all that shit. And how are you not broke?
I probably am. I don't know.
Right?
But
You're like I got $2.50 in my bank account right now.
it's $1.50. Okay.
Well, hey,
don't don't say
we have a
what.
guest today. We have a professional wrestler. He's a pro wrestling head coach out of a school down in Metro Phoenix. Now, I first saw him at my first indie wrestling show that I went to. It was not too far from my house in Prescott Valley, and I saw this guy in person. He wrestled Brian Kendrick in the main event, and this guy was just like he towered over Kendrick. You know, Kendrick's a smaller guy, and this dude, I mean, he's a beast. He goes by, well, at least on Instagram, King of No Rules. He's out of my hometown here in Arizona, and now out in Queen Creek, which is a suburb in Phoenix, Arizona. Let's bring him in, Mr. Gabriel Gallo. Good morning. How you doing, sir?
How's it going today, guys? How you
Good,
doing?
man. You?
Good. Good. Just like I said, trying to wake up, drinking my coffee.
I hear you. Right? Yeah, I'm still having a little bit of coffee. I'm usually having coffee on our show in the morning. There's never enough. What do you got, Liz? What is that? Oh
This
yeah,
is my coffee.
she lights up sometime during the show, before the show, after the show.
I got mine
There you
too.
go.
Yes.
He's ready. Yeah, I'm all out. I'm fresh out today. So, well, anyways, man, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Been following you on social media. Saw you got to wrestle live in person. You put on a hell of a main event at the show, an independent show here up in northern Arizona. That was really fun. I actually got to meet your girlfriend. I think she was working like the merchandise table or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me how you got hooked up with that promotion, being you're down in the valley, and I want to hear all about the school that you're involved with as well.
So you're talking about the one up in Prescott Valley, right? So that was Ryan Morrill set that show up. He's a wrestler I've known for a couple years, and he hit me up and just said he wanted me to come do the show because it was my hometown. It was being held in it was in Prescott Valley, but you know I'm from Prescott, so
Right.
he just hit me up and asked if I wanted to be on the show and be part of it and help him get it going, and I said yeah, sure. And then he booked me against because he was trained by Spanky, by Brian Kendrick, and I've known Kendrick for years. We used to tour Japan together back in the early 2000s, and so I was like, yeah, sure, let's set it up. So that's how that all came about.
Well, that was a hell of a main event, man. It was an entertaining show from top to bottom. I've never I've never been to an independent wrestling show. I've been to WWE shows and WCW back in the day, but I've never been to an indie wrestling show. Liz is at an indie wrestling show like every other day of the week. So it was really cool to kind of see. I sat like second row back, and it was a fun show. It was really cool. I liked your gimmick. I thought maybe you'd come on the show today with the big chain around your neck.
That stuff gets heavy.
Yeah, man, it looked heavy. I was like, geez, that's a big dude, and that shit looked heavy. I mean, it probably weighed as much as Brian Kendrick, right?
Well, you noticed it busted me open when I tried to crawl. When I tried to get into the ring, it hit the rope and smacked me in the head. So before the match even started, I was bleeding.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I might have got a picture of it. I got to go through my phone. But I think I did catch it. I was like, oh shit, he's already busted open.
Yeah, definitely not a fake chain. So
no. Well, hey man, before we hear all about the wrestling school that you're involved with, tell us a little bit about your wrestling background. How you got into pro wrestling. When you got your start.
Well, it's kind of a long story with me because I originally started training for wrestling back in 98, 99.
Oh, okay.
But the place I was training at wound up, just being kind of bullshit. And they were just taking our money. And I wound up breaking my ankle there. And I was out for like another year.
Ouch.
And then I wound up meeting up with some guys down here in Arizona, in Phoenix. That had heard about my story, and so they reached out and got a hold of me. He was at the show too. One of the guys, his name was CC Star, and he was an old time wrestler. He did jobs for AWA and WWF back in the day, and worked for NWA and everything. And then he introduced me to my future trainer and tag partner, Steve Eastloss, the Navajo Warrior. And if you don't know who Steve is the guy that originally trained Horseshoe Luther Reigns, and he trained one of my best friends, Mike Knox. What's he go by now? Mike. He used to go by Mike Knox in Impact, and Mike Knox in WWE, I guess. Yeah, in ECW, and that was back in 2000, end of 99, 2000. And I started training with him, and 6-7 months later, I just went on the road with him as his tag partner full time. And then we spent the next 3 years basically wrestling all over the country and all in Japan and Mexico and everywhere. Winning tag titles everywhere until eventually we quit teaming and I went on my own in about 2003. Started wrestling under my name, Gabriel Gallo. Well, back then it was GQ Gallo. And then I wrestled all over the place for a long time, not really knowing what I was doing, kind of figuring out my own path. Wrestled for Dale Gagne's AWA for a little while when he was trying to do the reboot of it. And then it's just kind of gone on from there. Eventually I dropped the GQ because I realized I wasn't that good looking or a model. And progressively just became my normal redneck Prescottonian ass kicker self. Eventually moving, after I've been wrestling 22 years now, going on 23. So after I had a bad knee injury, I came back and started wearing the wolf skin and the chains, and that was a lot of fun. So that was how the real King of No Rules was born there, which I got that name originally when I was wrestling for Impact Zone Wrestling out here in Arizona for years, and the fans started calling me that because, I was a nutbag and I did crazy no rules matches a lot before they were even cool. None of that thumbtack and barbed wire bullshit, but beating the hell out of each other with chairs and using the stage as a weapon and generally trying to break each other with the planet. Using the planet as a thing to break you. If that makes sense.
Well, you kind of bring up something pretty cool, man, because, all right, so I'm old school. I like the old school hardcore matches, going back to ECW days and things like that. But fast forward to today, Liz is a huge fan of them. But these death matches, I fucking can't stand it I am not a fan. So you kind of brought something up about that. Are you a fan of these death matches, or is it just like something totally like I can't get with this?
The question, no, the
I
question is, are you a
fucking
fan
hate
for me to
garbage
do it?
matches. I hate garbage matches. There are some guys that do them that are really good that I really wish like they didn't do them. Like Drake Younger was a guy that did death matches, and he was a phenomenal athlete and wrestler though. Like that guy didn't have to do all that dumb shit because he could wrestle. I watched him wrestle Timothy Thatcher the first time I ever met him, and I was like one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen, and there wasn't a single thing thrown in the ring as far as hardcore goes. But like the thing that I hate about death matches is first off, nobody actually ever dies. You would think a death match like somebody's gonna die at the end, like 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, and it never actually happens. Though they damn sure come close enough to it, cutting arteries and stapling each other and throwing each other through glass. And dude, I know a bunch of guys. Like a couple of friends of mine used to run a death match company in Albuquerque, and every year they would do a big death match tournament, and every year they would have to go to the hospital and get all these stitches and all these like $70,000 in hospital bills. And I was like, how much did that show even make you?
Right.
And they'd be like, oh, it drew a couple $1,000s. And I go, you just gave yourself $70,000 in hospital bills. What the hell is wrong with you? It's not supposed to be a hobby. It's not supposed to be all. I was like, you can go do that just by motocross racing out in the desert and wrecking and then having to go fix a broken leg or something. I was like, at least then you can have a cool story. You don't have to sit there and explain to people how you let a guy in a wrestling match stab you in the face with a piece of broken glass while you sat there on your knees and screamed and didn't actually just punch him in the dick when he came at you.
Oh, that's fucking awesome. So your take is you got to really see someone die, and then you're like, all right, that's cool. Like, you know, now this
Not
is a
even that,
legitimate.
because that's not what it's supposed to be about. I mean, like that like to me, deathmatch wrestling off, but like, yeah, everybody likes watching it because it's a train wreck. Everybody likes watching the train wreck. When you're watching, everybody has watched a Faces of Death or something where you see the person walk across the train tracks and you're like, oh, one of these people's about to get smashed by this train coming up. And then you see it, and you're like, I can't watch. Right. And then you're looking right at it again. Like everybody watches that for that. But aside from the initial shock value, it appeases the when I say this, the very bottom base of the wrestling. I don't even know if they're wrestling fans because they don't actually care about the wrestler no matter what they say. They just care about watching the wrestlers kill themselves and kill other people for their sick entertainment. They'd be the ones that would go to the Greco-Roman Coliseum and watch like the gladiators fight each other to death. Not because they particularly liked it. They just want to see the carnage. So like, to me, these wrestlers that are doing it, first of all, they're usually not the best wrestlers. And the ones that are, they just have something wrong with them. They throw the weakest punches. All their stuff looks like garbage half the time, except when they smack each other in the head with a chair, or they throw each other through a piece of glass. And it just all looks not only so fake and so bad half the time, because I've been in a lot of street fights, and I can tell you what, I never sat on my knees when somebody came up and stabbed me in the face with a piece of glass and sat there and let him do it, or put shish kebabs in my head and smack it. I definitely didn't like sit there and let that happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like it's just not very intelligent to me. It's not it's not entertainment. It's literally just a bunch of S&M freaks that sit there and watch each other go Sado on each other. That's all it is. I don't care what anybody says. I'll fight anybody about it. I think that's what it is. I have a lot of friends that do it, and I tell them the same thing. My buddy JD Horror used to do it all the time, and I used to make fun of him all the time. I was like, you have kick pads on. And he goes, yeah. And I go, why are you wearing kick pads? And he goes, well, I super glued thumbtacks to them. And I go, that makes no sense. Why don't you just take the knee pad, the kick pad off and kick them with your shin like a real Muay Thai expert or something? Why I got to put thumbtacks on and all this stuff? I go, and then throw a really bad kick. I go, that's horrible. Stop doing that. Which no one ever listens because they like it. Like there was one time, I'll go into a story for you. So this is my thing about deathmatch wrestling. And again, nothing to these guys that were on the show because a lot of them I know. Some of them passed away. They were all nice guys. Nothing about that. It's just the disagreement and the argument of wrestling. I was working for this company called MexPro on their first show. And it wasn't Rob Black, but it was a couple guys that used to work for the old XPW. And they were starting a new company, and they called it was called MexPro originally, or MexPW, and then they switched it to MexPro because they caught heat about it being too close to XPW. And there was like the Santino brothers guy Joey on there. There was Supreme, his uncle before Supreme passed. There was Messiah. The main event was Messiah versus Supreme in a death match. I wrestled the Almighty Sheik on it, and we were like 2 matches before the finish. And this is one of the shows where everybody's given a little bit of color. And I was wrestling. It was a straight match, and I wound up actually getting my head cracked open on the turnbuckle. It just hit my head, and it just exploded. Like it was which again was funny, is that was the most color on a deathmatch show out of all the guys even stabbing themselves. Was I busted the top of my head open. It probably needed a ton of stitches, but I never got them. And just I was just covered, drenched, blood everywhere.
Oh my.
And I remember, and we just did a straight match. It was like old school Memphis. We just beat each other up. I don't know if you know who the Almighty Sheik is, Joseph Samael.
I do.
He was the I think he had just lost the NWA title that time. He got back from a tour of Japan, and we were working, and we just beat each other up all around. You're not really using weapons, just beat each other up. Old school fight. Went into the ring, and I remember he had me down on the ground. He was beating the hell out of me, and I was fighting back. And then I remember I was about to get him, and then he somehow locked me in the camel clutch. And I just remember that we were fighting that camel clutch for a good 2 or 3 minutes. And I remember reaching for the ropes, and the crowd on a deathmatch show was chanting, "Please don't tap, please don't tap, please don't tap." And then it wound up getting the schmoz finished. I grabbed the rope, and he wouldn't let go, and so they disqualified the match. Right? Crowd was going crazy. It was just a regular match. I gave a lot of color because I got my head busted open, but it was just a regular match, and the crowd was going nuts. That match caused more reaction than the main event of Messiah versus Supreme in an XPW hardcore match, death match. And they were pissed off about it, but it wasn't. It was because we didn't do, and they were doing all the typical deathmatch stuff. But when you do a match that has real emotion, it gets people really caring about what's going on because they really think it might be real or not, and they think the win matters, and they actually get behind you in it. Means way more than all that. I don't have any of that stuff. I'm just gonna throw literally bodies against the wall and see what sticks to the thumbtacks. It doesn't really. It sometimes doesn't. It doesn't get over. Like people again they're not watching it because they're personally invested. They're watching it because they just want to see what happens next. Like, right. I want to see if this guy actually dies or bleeds to death or tests positive for Hep C. I don't know. Like I don't know.
Oh, that's funny. That's crazy. Well, that's a cool story, man. You were talking about you did some time in Japan. The other day, Antonio Inoki just passed away.
I heard about that. I didn't know about that until the other day.
Did you get a chance to ever meet him when you were in Japan?
I never met Inoki. I didn't work for him. I worked for one of the other Three Musketeers. I worked for Hashimoto back when Zero One first started. I started with 01 in 2001, about 6 months after they opened their doors, and I worked for them pretty much through 2004, 2005, doing those shows. So no, he was one of the few I didn't get to meet that I really wanted to. Like I said, I got to wrestle Hashimoto and meet and know Hashimoto real well. I never got a chance to work with Muda or Chono either, but those are like the Three Musketeers that were trained by Inoki. So I guess I kind of knew him just through Hashimoto.
Now, you mentioned Great Muda. Now, he actually just popped up for the first time in a long time. He showed up on AEW. Was it last week, Liz, or was it the week before Great Muda popped up? And I didn't even know he was still around anymore, but it looks like he's trying to get one last stint in the United States. Now, I first saw Great Muta many years ago on WCW because WCW used to bring a lot of talent from Japan and Mexico when WWF at the time wasn't really showcasing those guys. So they really got their big introduction, to United States wrestling fans when WCW would bring them on, which I always thought was really cool because, the luchadors and all that would show up, on WCW. And, you guys had like Ultimo Dragon and like all these guys that just United States wrestling fans weren't familiar with. So just kind of going to your time talking about in Japan, what was it like wrestling there? I know the fans are a lot different in Japan than they are in the United States, right?
It was awesome. They say they are, but at the end of the day, they're all the same. Japanese wrestling fans just respect it, I think, a lot more and treat it more like I'm not going to say like a sport, but they do treat it like a sport, but they treat it more like it's just they recognize the hard work that goes into it, And also out there in Japan, especially when they're watching like the Japanese wrestlers come up, those guys go through a lot and they know it. It's just their culture. They train hard and everybody recognizes that, even the fans. But it is the only place where like the fans would ever wait outside the hotel room with a picture that they took of you that night and went and got developed. And they'd wait all night outside your hotel room before you came out just to get you to sign it and then take a picture of you signing it, stuff like that. So like the fans were really cool and they were really respectful. They didn't really make a lot of noise in the arenas all the time. They would just clap when they saw something cool.
Right.
But even that, because that's what I was always told when I first went out there. They're like, don't worry, they're enjoying the show when they're not making noise. They just clap when they see something and they make a ooh and ah. And I remember one time I went out there and I did a tag match with Russ Simpson against Fujita and somebody else for 0-1, and I wanted to see if that was real, because we had always gotten, me and my tag partner Nav, we would always get the crowd rocking and rolling, but I wanted to see if I can do it a different way, more old school. And I remember I just did some classic Southern heel stuff, and I got that crowd losing their mind. It wasn't on a television show. It was on a house show. And I remember at one point in time, me and Russ rolled out and I called for a timeout, which is classic, just indie wrestling, bullshit. And I called for a timeout and I reached over the guard railing and moved 3 fans and ripped the chairs up out of the crowd and stuck them in the ground and opened them up and sat down on them and yelled timeout. And the whole crowd lost their friggin' mind. They would not stop chanting and cheering the rest of the match. Like, it was just like a typical American crowd at that point.
That's awesome.
So they can get worked. It's a different culture. They're a lot more respectful, like quiet and stuff. But I love Japan. Japan was fun. I really enjoyed it. I was one of the few guys that actually liked Japanese food, so I could eat anything out there.
Nice. You're like, yeah, bring me all the sushi.
Bring me the sushi. Bring me the weird shrimp flavored candy in the candy aisle. I'll eat it all.
That's a country. Japan's a place I've always wanted to go visit, and I'm hoping one day I get to go visit. So that's really awesome. I could listen to stories about that all day. But hey, good morning. If you're just joining us, our guest today is Gabriel Gallo. He's a professional wrestler and head coach and trainer at a school here in Phoenix, Arizona. So thank you for joining us. If you're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Shout out to Circle Debate and the Call Up Podcast in the chat. Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, because they're all out of NYC. But let's fast forward and talk about your school, man, and how you're kind of linked up with PCW Ultra. I know Liz, she definitely checks out some Ultra shows out in LA. Seems like they're doing stuff all the time.
Yeah, they are. Well, where do you want to start at? The school or with PCW Ultra?
Let's start with the school.
All right. The school was started by my tag team partner, Don Vitale, about a year before the shutdown. And it's him and one of the other, actually, the other owner is also one of the students. He went through, he started and about 8 months after we opened the school, and he actually went through every last bit of training that everybody else did. He didn't care. He was one of the owners, and he went through all the grueling stuff that we put everybody through. But when Dom wanted to start the school with John, they wanted to run a real wrestling school. They didn't want this flash in the pan type of school that's been around for so long, where you got half trained wrestlers that didn't want to actually learn or couldn't learn the right way. Started a school and would just train people with their half-ass knowledge. We have a real big issue with that. We always have. That's why I think the wrestling business nowadays is wrestling in bingo halls and VFW halls instead of coliseums every weekend. Is just because most of the wrestlers wouldn't have cut it back in the day. So we started a school, and now when I'm saying that, I'm not saying that we started a school that's hardcore enough that we like phase wrestlers in and out, like, you know, beat them up and get them out. But we are hardcore. We train them physically. They have to do a tryout. They have to go through a meeting. They have to go through a tryout before they're even allowed in the school. Once they're in the school, it takes them 6 weeks before they're even evaluated to be able to get into the wrestling ring. They have to do all their training outside the ring just to get physically in shape, which is something that we're noticing now too, is that a lot of people nowadays obviously are not the same type of guys like we were when kids and would go out and play outside. Most of them are coming in and they're so out of shape because they obviously haven't done anything besides watch TV and play video games their entire adolescent life, that we have to start out at the base. They can't even do a push-up half the time. And we have to train them all the way up from that. So once we get them through their physical evals and they start the actual wrestling school inside the ring, then they have to go through another series of exams, that, so to speak. What do you call them? Evals. We do evaluations like every, I think, 8 to 9 weeks, and if they don't pass the eval, they can't move on to learn the next thing. So it's really structured in how we do it. We got a lot of good trainers. We got a lot of bring a lot of guest trainers. We have, like I said, the house trainers are like myself. I'm the head trainer. We got my tag partner Dom, who's wrestled only about 3 years less than me, so he's going like 19 on 18 or 19 years now. You know, I was trained by Navajo Warrior and Mike Knox, and he was trained by a guy named Shockwave the Robot out of New York, and then he went and trained down in Florida for a while. The one of the other trainers is a guy named Max. He used to wrestle for NXT and WWE. We got one of my old tag partners that comes in and helps out a lot. His name's Derek Dykert. He used to wrestle. He was trained in Heartland by Les Thatcher, and then he wrestled for Deep South and ECW and SCW and WWE was owning them for a long time. He was Mike Knox's tag partner on the Indies. We have one of my good friends, Val Venus, comes in sometimes, and he lives nearby. We try to offer the students just a full, broad spectrum of people that are legitimate and that they can check out all their resume, so they're not just being trained by anybody else. You know, we're real structured. We're really big on the team environment of the school, even though it's a competition with everybody. So everybody there really pushes each other and strives to be better because they want other people to work as hard as they do, so that they can get them better. Because the better they get, the better everyone gets. It makes everybody push themselves. So it's not exactly a wrestling school for everyone. And we tell people that. It's a wrestling school for people that want to not just wrestle on the weekends, they want to make it a career. So we're really into fine-tuning people that have already been trained elsewhere, knocking out bad habits, getting guys trained from the ground up, getting people physically in shape. Dom is doing a lot of what do you call them, self-development coaching on the side. So he does a lot of that in the school too, with self-development, because we also don't want guys just to be wrestlers. We want them to be good human beings and be able to go and take everything they learn. If they decide next week they don't want to do it anymore, and take everything they learned there and apply it to their real life. So we do things a little bit differently than a lot of wrestling schools.
Yeah, that's awesome, man, because you hear about some of these schools and it's kind of like just churning and burning guys. And it's like, you know,
we don't do that. Most of our students, like I said, we're starting a new class here. We just did our October our tryout for October. A lot of our classes, now granted, they do drop off. That there's like a 70% drop off rate just because of life. You know, this is a full-time commitment. We require a lot out of them before they ever even get to the ring. And because we say, if you can't do what we require and you can't handle the mental stress of what we're doing now, plus your real life, you're never going to handle wrestling when you're on the road. That's how a lot of guys' lives get wrecked, is they let the wrestling business take them over. They don't have a good grounding or balance. But most of our guys have been in there for 2 years. A lot of the guys don't usually make a debut for their first year and a half before they're ready. We really make sure they're ready. We don't want them to go out there and embarrass themselves or fart in the ring or anything. We want them to have the best possible experience. And I think as far as first time matches go, like debut matches, I can honestly say mine was a stinker, and everybody I know usually says their debut match was a stinker. Most of our students' debut matches are not stinkers, and a lot of people come up afterwards and go, "How long have you been wrestling?" And it's their first match live.
Wow, that's awesome. So tell me how you guys hooked up with PCW.
I've known Sheik for a long time, Joseph Samael. Through me, he met my tag partner Dom. We were the first PCW tag team champions when the company first started. Dom still wrestles with them. He's their director of competition, so he's always out there in the ring wearing a red jacket and talking to the fans and setting things up and helping Joe do stuff with the company. I don't wrestle out there anymore. Like I said, I don't really go on the road a lot at all anymore. I've been doing it a long time. I like training guys now. But we get a lot of our students ready, and they go out there and do a lot of the. I think we have 3 of our students in their pre-show now, every show, just about. So there's been a good working relationship there with him and Dom and everything since the school opened. And like I said, we were the first tag champs, so we've been working out there with them since they started in 2015, 2016. I think when it started, 2017. I can't remember.
I believe so. I started going 2017.
2017? Yeah, I started with them. We were at the Torrance, California, starting at a gym. I think our second show had Rob Van Dam on it. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that. I do remember.
When I was out there, Rob Van Dam ran. We beat the Reno Scum, I believe, to become the tag champions.
Reno Scum.
Yeah, those were good times back then. That was like the first time anything like that had been done in California, because usually California, especially SoCal, is just a lot of the same guys. It's a lot of the same matches, same show, just in different areas, and it's all just super spot fest and everything else. And Joe he could run a really successful company in Florida for years, and when he closed that down, moved to California. And he decided he wanted to start something like that out there, and he just basically brought a real old school wrestling company with a new school feel out there, and it really hit Southern California hard, because they were used to just seeing, all the just regular typical indie stuff, and now they've got they got the version of the wrestling company they would always watch in ROH or ECW or whatever out on the East Coast that never really hit the West Coast that well. So
right. Yeah, because in the independent wrestling scene, throughout the country, it seems like there's hot spots that are popping up everywhere. But the areas that are really known for is like Florida and in the South and stuff. So it's really nice for us to kind of have that out here on the West Coast or in the Southwest. And it's really cool how we have the connection with Phoenix and LA, because kind of joking around, but Liz goes to a ton of shows. And it's cool to see that connection. So she's probably seen, guys coming out of the school that you're at, in LA for those shows. And I guess she'll keep seeing them, if you guys are kind of, pushing them through that program. That's really kind of cool to see.
Yeah, we have who do we have out there right now? I think that you might have seen Kevin Koa, Devin Reno, John Wolfgang. They're all doing the PCW pre-shows. I think Mr. Classic did one out there recently. We send everybody out there. Like I said, I think the reason why you see a lot of those hotbed areas is because in places like Florida, in the South, in New York, you still have a good supply of veterans that have done this for a while. And you've got a good supply of guys, especially in Florida, that have recently been on TV or been around people on TV or done something on a lot of those televised products out there. And so when you have that old school mentality, and then they're actually good enough to be able to mix it with what people want to see today, creates a good product. California, I think, for a long time didn't really have that. they've just had a lot of guys that could wrestle and some really well, but they didn't actually know the business side of it all that well. And so that's, I think, something that Joe brought when he moved out from Florida out there, is he brought that old school, like he'd been around, training with guys. Because I originally first met Joe when I first started years ago. He was part of the Market Crashers, and I was wrestling with Navajo as Native Blood, and we were doing Florida Championship wrestling shows. And he was out there with all those guys from WCW, Kevin Sullivan. They all lived in Florida. He was around them and picking their brain all the time. So when he came out to California, he brought all that stuff that he learned out there with him, and he was just able to do for the first time in California, in my opinion, what a lot of people couldn't do, and just really put that good business sense behind the wrestling. So like, because good wrestling is great, but it's not going to, if you don't have a good business sense, you're not going to be able to promote it right. So you're still going to have 50 people there. If you don't know how to do the business side of it, you're never going to be able to draw enough people or be able to manage the what those people bring into the door correctly. So when you have that good old school mentality of wrestling and business, and you put it together, you're going to create something good, especially in California that does have a lot of good talent.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So tell us about any shows that might be coming up down in the Valley. Do you guys have anything on the horizon coming up?
Yeah, so Slam U, which is it's kind of like our student showcase, but it's not really, it's hard to explain, but we kind of created our own NXT with the school, with Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center, and it's called Slam U, and it's basically put on by the students. They had to go out and get their first venue, and they had to promote it themselves and figure every last aspect of that show out themselves, and it wound up turning into a monthly show. So now they are crowning their first heavyweight champion of that company. Let's see, I have a date here, October 15th at the Endgame Bar in Mesa, Arizona. It's a that one's an all ages event. It's put on. It's a part of the All Villains Eve night. It's being put on by the Bearded Villains and our school. The Bearded Villains are a charity organization out here. They work a lot with the Phoenix Children's Hospital, everything like that. We've done a wrestling show with them every year for the last 3 years. And so this one is now that benefit show that we normally do, but we're going to crown our first Slam U champion on it. We're going to have Kevin Koa, Devin Reno, Blair Brody, John Wolfgang, Mr. Classic, a lot of guys, Flyboy Freddy, Eldon Finau, a bunch of our local talent, all of our homegrown talent is on that fight for the title. And then coming up November 12th, I believe, or November 10th. They actually, I should look at that day right now. November 12th. We have PCW Arizona is holding our tag team tournament. We're going to crown our first tag team champions for Phoenix Championship Wrestling. That's our big show. That's the one that we do every 2 or 3 months out here, and that's the one that all the students are vying to get to. That's the one that's tied in with PCW Ultra. It's like I said, we're PCW Arizona, and we are crowning our first tag team champions that night. We've been building all year for a tag team tournament for the tag champions, and then in January a heavyweight tournament for the heavyweight championship. So going into this one, we got for that one on November 12th, we got the Gods of War, which is Hammerstone and Joe Graves. Me and Dom are teaming up on it, going into the tag tournament, trying to win the title. Since we were the first champions of all companies, we figured we might as well try to take our own.
Nice.
We got Flyboy Freddy and Devin Reno, and we got, who else do we got on there? There's a bunch of people. We have a bunch of tag teams coming out to work. A lot of our homegrown talent. It's going to be a good show. Those ones are the PCW Arizona shows are a big deal out here. They draw huge every time. There's no other company out here that can do the same stuff that we do. We try to put on the best show that we possibly can. And the Slam U show is the same thing. Those kids do the same exact thing. They see what we do, and they try to be on the big show so that eventually they can go from there to PCW Ultra or other places that they can get seen on our show. And everybody out here in those two companies strives for excellence. So if you ever get a chance to go to a show in Arizona, those are the two companies you want to go see, Slam U or PCW Arizona. I'm not just saying that because I'm part of it. It's because we really strive to put the best wrestling show on possible. Like we want the fans to remember people. As Devin Reno says, remember our name because it's the best.
Well, that's awesome, man. So you said that's November 12th?
Yeah, November 12th. That one is at the Broadway Rec Center. You know, I have all these notes everywhere, and I just don't know where it's at right now. But that one's at the Broadway Rec Center in Mesa. Like I said, it's going to be a tag team tournament. We also got Toa on there. Toa is going to be in our heavyweight tournament. If you haven't seen Toa Leona, he's on AEW or ROH now, I believe. Great talent. He's out of California. Like I said, we're just trying to make a big impact out here and give our students a good launching pad for the future. Like that's the main reason behind it, is everything's really for the students. We want them to have a really good launching pad, to have a really good base that they learn from, to have a really good beginning company that they grind their teeth in, and then another company that they can buy for to strive to get on, and then from there strive to get on bigger shows out. We don't want our students to just be flash in the pans. We don't want them to be weekend warriors. We want them to be able to do what they dream of and make a living at professional wrestling. So we try to make the best platforms possible and the best opportunities possible for all.
Well, that's awesome, man. I can't make the 15th for that Slam U, but I can go down there for the November 12th show. I got to go check that out.
Yeah, it's those ones, like I say, those are good ones. Let me see here. I might be wrong on the date. I might have been saying the wrong date this whole time. That'd be very bad, right? It is wrong. It is November 19th.
Okay.
November 19th.
What about the one in October?
I have my buddy's wedding in my head. What's that?
The one in October, is that on the 15th?
That one's
Slam
on October 15th. Yeah, that one's on October 15th. You can get all the information if anybody wants to look. It's at pcwarizona.com. They have everything on there from the shows. We got everything to if you want to join the school. There's a train in Arizona section on there. That's the main point of content to get to all our sites. We also got Facebook. We got Phoenix Championship Wrestling on Facebook or PCW Arizona, Phoenix Wrestles or PCWAZ on Instagram, and I don't know what the Twitter is because I don't have Twitter. I got rid of that stuff a long time ago. It's annoying.
That's all right. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you so much coming on. Shit, I could talk to you all day. I would love to just hear story after story after story. You traveling and hitting the road and all the wrestling. I'm a huge wrestling fan since I was a kid. And, you know, when you bring up like Memphis style wrestling, I mean, that's all the shit I grew up watching, you know, kids from the 70s and 80s. You know what I mean?
It's the best style. You bring the fans in. If you can make it look more modern, bring the fans in. Make them feel like they're part of the show.
Yeah. Well, Gabriel, thank you so much for joining Liz and I today. We really appreciate it, man. Like I said, hey, I would love to try to connect with you and going down to the show in November. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, do it. Just hit me up. Let me know. Get you some tickets if you can make it down. Like I said, it's November 19th. I was wrong on the date. November 19th. That's the PCW Arizona Tag Team Tournament.
I'm there, man. Consider me there, and maybe I can talk Liz into coming for the show. See if she can film.
Liz, you'll like our show.
Unfortunately, I can't. I already have. I'm going to be hosting a show out here for Venue Wrestling. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, there you go.
But,
yeah, she's busy. She's very busy. Me, on the other hand, I'm not busy.
Isn't Lil Cholo and
yes.
Mariachi Loco on those Venue Wrestling shows?
Yes. Correct. Yes.
Tell them I said hello. Tell them
Absolutely.
I said hello.
Absolutely. I'll definitely tell them.
Well, Gabriel, thanks so much for joining us, man. You have yourself a good Sunday. I appreciate it, and I'll definitely be seeing you in November, man. I'm going to come down. I'll make sure to come down for that. So
yeah, just hit me up, man. Let me know.
That's a video.
Yep. Have a good one, man.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
All right. Well, that was awesome.
I know. Damn.
Yeah.
That's freaking cool. That's so crazy.
So you're going to what show? Who is it? Little Loco and Little Cholo what?
Cholo. It's Venue Wrestling. So Venue Wrestling, I'm VWE, where I've been going to all their last shows.
Right.
Yes, I got asked to be a host, and it was announced earlier this week. So I'm going to be hosting Venue Wrestling. So
Oh
I'm
shit.
excited. I'm
Like said, that's
excited.
an ATW exclusive. Exclusive. Hollywood Liz strikes again.
Stop.
You know
Stop.
when
But no,
you now let's
what?
say you know you got to change that heel Liz. You got to just it's got to be Hollywood Liz. I think we should get some shirts made up for you to say ATW Hollywood Liz.
Stop.
You could be
No.
like Hulk Hogan. You could have like Hulk Hogan when he dyed his beard black. We could
No.
do something crazy.
That'd be crazy. Do some like something with red. No, I'm just kidding.
Something with
No. No, I'm cool with healers. I'm cool with healers. But the event is nothing to lose. So if anybody's gonna be in Cali, um, or if you already live in Cali, November 19th, again, I'll be hosting Nothing to Lose for Venue Wrestling. It's gonna be a dope show. A lot of matches are already being announced for that show. So I'm excited. Looking forward to it. Big time,
Yeah.
Liz.
Well, the pro wrestling podcast is they're coming
Yes.
up with a big time Liz. I don't know, big time Liz, Hollywood Liz. Hollywood Liz makes more sense because she's
Yeah.
out in LA, right? So Hollywood Liz, I think, has a better ring to
But
it. But hey,
but I
I'm
want
a
to give
little
it. I
sad.
want to give a quick shout out. Hold on. Let me give a quick shout out to Stunners and Stoner. Damn.
Who?
There's a okay.
Stunners
There's
and
an
stoners. I like that.
yes. They it's an ashtray. Then we got the lighter. But what I wanted to show was this dope ass shirt that I got. Look at this.
What is that?
Vince McMahon.
Oh wow.
But you know, so you remember that scene where his limo blow up? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
so it's that, but it's basically him just lighting up a fucking joint, bro. So
Wow.
go check them out. I had to give them a quick shout out, especially because this ashtray. Look at this ashtray, it's freaking cool.
That's really fucking cool.
It could hold your blunts or your joints. So y'all go check them out.
Check it out. Well, hey, I'm a little sad because I'm going to be missing my co-host. She's going to be going on a little vacay. So she's going to be gone for the next, really to the end of the month.
Yes.
Are you excited?
I am. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be spending time with family and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I will be missing the show, unfortunately. I don't want to say I'm going to be on. Maybe I'll pop up. Who knows? Who
Shit,
knows?
we bring you on as a guest.
On my own show. Okay.
There you go. Like, oh shit, I'm a guest today.
I know, but probably here and there, depending on what my day has going on for around that time. But yes, I will be going on vacation for the next 3 weeks, and I will be back. And do you want to tell them when I'll be coming back?
Yes, I am very excited because I'm working on some shit. So I want to be revamping the show a little bit. So I think when Liz comes back, I think we're going to see a little bit of a change. Going to see some cool shit. So anyways, Liz will be back on our show Sunday, October 30th, which is going to be not only our Halloween episode. So I'm going to get dressed up. I think Liz is probably going to get dressed up. That is also our 50th episode, which is kind of cool. So I've already talked to a few people that have been on, some guests in the past. Might have some surprises. People pop up just to say hey. Not necessarily an interview that day. More people just to come on and just kind of shoot the shit and say hey. So I'm hoping for a really cool episode when Liz comes back on October 30th.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's our 50th episode. I can't believe I've been doing this shit for that long.
That's crazy. I've been here for half. I think I came in like 20 something, right?
Maybe a little before that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I had to go back and look, but I think you've been doing the show with me since March. I think February, March, maybe
Around there, I think so.
somewhere around there. So time has just
Yeah.
fucking flown by, and girl, you blown up. You weren't doing any of the shit you're doing now. When you came on, like you're hosting wrestling shows and fucking making world tours. They're gonna fly you out to Japan next.
Stop!
You're
Don't
going
say.
everywhere.
I'm
You're going everywhere.
available.
Available. Just in case you're wondering, she is available.
In case
But hey, we're
anyone
kind of like
wants
already at the end of our
to-
show, which time just fucking flew by. But I know you're leaving next week, but are you going to get to watch Extreme Rules before you leave?
I am leaving the day of, so I
Okay.
don't know if I will be like I have landed because the flight I know for sure that I'm gonna be taking. I know for sure they're not gonna have Wi-Fi. So
Right.
it just depends what time I land. If everything goes smoothly, which usually it does, so knock on wood, everything goes well. I should be there probably a little bit after the show starts. So I don't know if I'm gonna watch it or maybe I'll just end up watching the replay like while I'm like unpacking and stuff, and everything. So once I arrive, maybe like later that night. So I maybe already see spoilers by the time that I start to
Right.
watch it. So, but
Yeah.
hopefully it could. Hopefully I get to watch it. But I have a lot already planned as soon as I arrive. So.
Well, I'm excited, really excited for this pay-per-view. And not only am I really excited for this pay-per-view, I am excited for who just got announced that's going to be the guest referee for Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle. It's going to be MMA legend Daniel Cormier, yeah, DC. He goes by DC, but he's a bad fucking dude. I've been a fan of DC for many, many years. I've tried to get him on the show a few times. Shit, maybe I'll be able to get him on the show next Sunday. Who knows? You never know. I'm gonna try.
Oh, hey,
Yeah,
I'll tune in.
you'll
I'll
tune in.
listen.
You'll listen.
I'll
But
listen.
yeah, I'm excited for Extreme Rules. But let's flip the switch really quick. Let's talk AEW and we'll get the hell out of here. If you're not a fan of FTR, I don't know why you're not, but they are hands one of
I'm
the
not.
best. They're one of the best tag teams,
They're
I
great.
think.
They're
Yeah.
great. They're great. I'm just not a fan. They're
Right?
not my cup
Okay.
of tea. But I
They
give
are
respect
not.
for game. I know that they're good. I understand why, they are who they are. I'm just not my cup of tea.
Well, I guess this past weekend, it might have been yesterday, Dax from FTR called out owner Tony Khan on an independent show and just like, hey, book us, man. What the fuck? I think
I
when it comes to
know.
booking on AEW, I think a lot of people are like, what the fuck? Because you don't see guys like for forever. Like, where the fuck did they go? Like FTR, these guys should be on TV every week. And for some reason, they're not. But I think they're very frustrated. There's a lot
I
of
think everyone
grumblings
is.
of wrestlers that are frustrated in AEW that, there could be some more guys jumping back to WWE.
Because the funny thing is that so many people hyped up AEW in the
Right.
beginning because of how they were treated that everybody's like, well, I want to go over there. And
Right.
everyone did. And now there's not enough time for everyone. And that's unfortunate. But I mean, shit, like you talked really good about the company. Who the fuck wouldn't want to go? Like we all, even as fans, heard how good they were getting treated over there. So I was like, damn,
Right.
I even want to be a wrestler and go to AEW.
There you go.
So I don't know, like it sucks, but I do feel the frustration on where it's coming from with everyone. And I don't think it's necessarily that they want to leave AEW because it's a shitty company. I think it's just because they're not getting the time that they expected that they would be getting, especially with all these people getting added on, weekly or every pay-per-view. So, sucks.
I don't know. Only time will tell. Circle of Debate. Thank you for letting us know. It was not an indie show. It was for New Japan Pro Wrestling in their pay-per-view, which was in the UK. The Pro Wrestling Podcast says it could be a work. Popular thing is bashing AEW. I mean, it kind of goes to like where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think that's really what it comes down to. I think a lot of people are frustrated, and AEW has their roster is just loaded, and I think it's like it kind of goes to that back in the day with WCW. NWO had like 1 million members by the time it was all said and done. And it's like, hey, you're not going to have enough time to get all these guys on TV, right? There's a lot of talented wrestlers out there, and I think some of them are just feeling underutilized, which is totally, understandable. We want these guys too. I know you're not a fan of FTR. I'm a fan. They're old school type of tag team,
I know, but
and
they
I
haven't
think
been
they're
on.
great. Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I know. I
So
honestly, because it's not only because I'm not a fan, but I kind of like forgot that they were there, because they haven't been used. They like I think
right,
they won the ROH Tag Team Championships, and then they haven't even been back on.
right,
So I even forgot that they were there. There's some people that I'm just like, oh shit, forgot you were there.
right.
Um, so I don't know. I think he just needs to buy more time. I don't know if it's like buy more time. I think this last Friday was like a 2 hour special or whatever. So why don't they have that? Add an extra hour just to see how your shit balances out. But who am I to speak, right?
I mean, shit. You're Hollywood Liz. Everyone should be listening to you. What are you talking about?
Right? Shit, I'm always right.
Right. So, anyways, one last thing. We're gonna make a prediction for Extreme Rules because they're saying the White Rabbit will make themselves known. Who's the White Rabbit, Liz?
I don't know, but I hope Bray Wyatt comes back already because everybody wants to be detectives right now, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to decrypt shit. And I think it's funny and it's fun. But I don't know. I just want Bray Wyatt to come back. I think
Right.
most of the clues have led that way. I guess you can say. So I would like to see him return, especially with those little hints. Or maybe it's just us overthinking shit, right?
Right.
That was on that poster board that we were talking about last week. So I don't know. Hopefully he returns. I think it would be a perfect pay per view for him to return.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's my guess. If he comes back, this should be the pay per view.
Well, I wanted to also be Bray Wyatt, but I'm preparing to disappoint because I have a feeling it's not. I have a feeling it's not going to be Bray Wyatt.
I think because we've all been guessing, and this is what I'm saying. Like Triple H and Tony Khan are literally they hear what's going on social media. So I think once they're going a certain way, then they just turn left by the time that
Right.
they show the product. So I don't know. I think it'll be fun. I think if it's not Bray Wyatt, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be somebody that we probably didn't even expect. So it should be
Well,
cool.
Pro
Watching Shawn
Wrestling
Michaels.
Podcast.
No, I'm just
Maybe it's going
kidding.
to be Baron Corbin. Who's it going to be?
I was like, watch it be Shawn Michaels.
Wow.
He's like one more match.
Oh my
And
God.
maybe Ric Flair.
Oh God. Please, please not Ric Flair. Don't let it be Ric Flair.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
Well, anyways, I'm going to miss you. I'll see you at the end of the month. I want you to have safe travels.
Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna miss coming on. But it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna have fun. I'm going for some personal reasons as well. So,
Okay.
it should be interesting, but it should be a good trip. But I should be back
Yeah.
on the 30th. So don't miss me too much, y'all.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Liz. You got anything you want to plug, or you're like, nah, I'm out of here next week?
Shit, there's a lot. There's so many shows in Southern California. So if you guys follow me, make sure that you guys watch my stories. I'm always posting because I always get asked where are these shows at? Where am I at? Where am I? Y'all, I always post the information on my stories. So
Yeah.
if you guys have any questions on any shows, when they are, all of that good stuff, I'm always posting them on my stories. But what I do big have going on is, of course, the Wrestle Giving, which is November 5th. That's going to be like a huge Thanksgiving dinner with a whole bunch of wrestlers. So make sure I'm going to be reposting all of that information so you guys can get that on my stories. And also, like I mentioned, Venue Wrestling, I will be hosting November 19th. So make sure you guys get
Awesome.
tickets and go see me. It's the first time I ever host a wrestling show. So yeah, go watch me botch this shit.
Boom. And on that note, I'm Tony Twist, ATW, All Things Wrestling Podcast. Happy Sunday, guys, and we're out of here.